When it comes to making videos on points and miles on YouTube, a lot of the times us creators assume you already know how to play the credit card game and we're just giving you additional tips and tricks. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about what you should be doing at the beginning stages of the credit card game, maybe even before you apply for any credit card at all. So today I want to talk about things you need to do before you get into the points and miles space. The first thing you need to do before you apply for any credit card is that you must, at least on the bare minimum level, understand how money works. So what does this actually mean? That means that you have no bad debt. And what I mean by that is do not have any current credit card debt or any high interest debt. So things like a car loan, most of the time, if you have a 15% car interest loan, I'd figure that out first. But things like a car loan or student loans or a mortgage or things like that, I consider that good debt. While I am someone who would rather pay that debt off as soon as possible, that is not something that you most definitely need to do. It is just something that I think is a bare minimum. Get rid of all of the high interest debt, anything over 8%. Make sure that is completely wiped away. Some people might say 10%, 4%, different numbers, but if it's credit card debt, if it's a payday loan, focus on that before you even think about applying for a new credit card. You must also understand your monthly budget. So what does that mean? You must at least at the bare minimum know how much money you spend every month and how much money you make every month. That might sound obvious to some people, but it does help out to at least write out once a month to say, okay, what money did I spend? What money came in? Okay, I made more money than I spent. Okay, good. You don't need to go through the entire process of getting a budgeting app or doing something on Excel. I definitely recommend that, especially at the beginning. But if it gets to a point where you see yourself struggling, kind of trying to balance budget every month, I definitely, invest in a good budgeting app or a good Excel formula spreadsheet thing to make sure you can get yourself in a good spot. Now, the last two bullet points I have there might be a little controversial, but I think if you want to play the points and miles game, at a bare minimum, you must have some type of emergency fund and you must be setting aside money to invest. If you're not doing those two things, you should not be focusing on credit card. But as you'll see in that top right, this is the first year, 2025, that I was able to max out my Roth IRA, which basically means that I invested at least $7,000. Now I also do have a 401k with my job that I put money into, but I wanted to kind of emphasize my Roth IRA, especially here at the end of the year. I had some extra money in my emergency fund that I just threw into my Roth IRA to make sure that it was maxed out. I'm not saying that you need to necessarily max out an investment account, but you should have some type of money being set aside every month for your future. I'll also especially speak to my fellow Gen Zers. I am not sure what Social Security will look like when it's time for us to retire, so I'd focus on making sure that you have some money set aside for yourself to invest in that future. I'm not going to tell you how big of an emergency fund you need or how much money you need to invest. You should just have those things in general. That's a decision for you to decide. So what do I not mean when I say you must understand how money works? I'm not saying you have to make a certain amount of money to apply for credit cards. There are people here who make $30,000 a year that absolutely kill it in the game. There are some people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and they kill it in the game. I do think you should have a certain income in order to apply for a card like the Amex Platinum card. But normally that's a decision for Amex to make, not for me to make. That's not something I'm going to do. I'm not going to be pocket watching you. If Amex thinks you can have the card, you can have the card. I would just make sure that those credit card annual fees fit somewhere into your monthly budget. As I said, I don't think you need to max out all of your investment accounts. I'm not maxing out my 401k this year. I can't set aside $23,000 to invest. But I am maxing out my Roth IRA, and I'm still putting a good chunk into my 401k. I feel like I am in a good spot right now at the ripe old age of 26. Again, I'm not saying you cannot get travel cards with annual fees if you are not making X amount of money. Again, I'm not out here pocket watching, but I do want to make sure that anyone I influence, quote unquote, with these videos, do not take the wrong ideas from these videos. You should have some type of financial basis before you decide to go play the credit cards points and miles game. The next thing I want everyone to do before they start applying for credit cards is to do their research. Watch some awesome content creators here on YouTube to help you get some tips and tricks and help learn about these different issuers. Some of my favorite people I watch on a semi-daily basis, people like Anthony Venture, John R's Points and Miles, Uncle Luke's Points and Miles, Matt Clausen's YouTube channel. I will link all of them down in the description below. There are also a ton more awesome YouTubers out there that do this full-time, part-time, and who have definitely not sold out. They are who they are very unique. They all have different perspectives, they all have different travel strategies. Some of them are married and can kind of have that player one, player two action. Some are single and do their own thing, and they all travel a little bit differently. So I think this is kind of a good group of people that I think everyone should watch if you have the time. But once you do that, you should set up some type of plan when it comes to credit cards. What kind of redemptions do you have in mind, and what issuers should you go after first? I always recommend people start with Chase just because they can be the most restrictive, and I do think they are the simplest issuer. They have some good no annual fee cards. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is a great first annual fee credit card. Some people might start with Citi or Capital One. Those are also good options, but I do think like Amex is not an issuer you should start with. The first credit card you get shouldn't be an Amex Gold card. And if I could say one piece of advice is the most important today, I would say that you should be honest with yourself about what your monthly spend is and do not overspend in order to hit some of these credit card sign-up offers. We're seeing a lot of these sign-up offers become more expensive. I think right now the Venture X has an awesome 100,000 point welcome bonus, but I think you have to spend $10,000 in 6 months. For some people, that's very natural. They spend that money in 6 months. But for someone like myself, that's very borderline. I'd have to put my rent spend on that, which is kind of a next level trick that's not really a trick, but something you can do that I don't like to recommend because there's a fee with that. And I won't go too deep into that rabbit hole today, but I don't think I could hit that with my natural non-rent spend. It would probably be close, and I could probably time that up with a car insurance payment and some other big expenses to make that happen, but it's not something I could do every day. You should plan bigger sign-up bonuses around times where you have higher spend, especially if you are someone who makes quarterly tax payments and you aren't a W-2 employee. That's a great time to hit a welcome bonus by when you pay your taxes. Again, there's fees with that, but any sign-up bonus would definitely cover the fee and make it worth it. So again, these are things that you need to figure out as an individual, because I'm a W-2 employee. That's not something I'm going to do. But if you work for yourself or are a contractor, that's a great opportunity. And once you have some type of plan, you need to start traveling and figure out what kind of travel you are. Are you someone who likes a good road trip to the Wisconsin Dells, or are you flying international business class to Tokyo twice a year? What kind of traveler are you will help determine what issuers you go with and what kind of points you want to acquire. If you travel for work, that can also put you towards maybe a certain hotel chain. Maybe the company you work for has a special relationship with Marriott, so you always find yourself traveling and staying at Marriott's when you go for work. Those are kind of things that you need to take into account every once in a while and determine, hey, if I am predisposed to travel a certain way, should I double down on that or maybe diversify my travel plans? Again, I can't make that decision for you. I would definitely look for someone who travels in the same way as you and makes videos on YouTube. See what they do. Are you someone who really likes to stay at kind of small boutique hotels? I'd hit up Anthony Venture. He loves staying in a small luxury hotel. Do you want to travel to Iceland? Again, hit up John R. If you're someone who is traveling with a family and needs to get multiple business class tickets, look at Uncle Luke's Points and Miles. Again, everyone kind of has a different form of traveling and different tips and tricks they use. So again, you might not know who you are as a traveler until you do it a little bit, but you'll quickly learn what level of bougie you want. Are you someone that sees a hotel as just a place to sleep, or do you want the full experience? You want to go to some place that has a spa, penthouse suite, or are you someone that thinks the Best Western is just fine? Because at the end of the day, different issuers work for different people, and you want to find a good setup that fits your style and how you spend. Another question to consider at the beginning of the credit card game is, how fast should I apply for credit cards? Well, I think if you are going to do something, you may as well do it 100%. I always advocate for applying for as many cards as is comfortable to you. I think you should be accumulating points very quickly and then spending them very quickly. Because if you have points just sitting around, or you're not really working on welcome bonuses very often, points are going to get devalued. And I think it's better to lock in a certain redemption at a certain cent per point value before things get kind of ruined. There's specific hotels I was hoping to stay at in Japan through the small luxury hotel program with Hilton that had some awesome cent per point value redemptions that unfortunately got devalued twice since I looked at them last. And as I was ready to book them, the redemption just didn't seem to be as good. I might still make that redemption because it's a hotel I want to stay at, but the value just isn't there anymore. And I really had to determine, hey, is there another hotel that I can use these points for and get better value somewhere else in that trip? And that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. I might just, instead stay at a cheap Hyatt hotel and then use those Hilton points for an awesome redemption somewhere else. But I think the more you hold on to points, the more worthless they become. So I say apply, get subs, spend points, and have a great time, but do not overspend on your credit cards. I've made a previous video talking about the psychology of credit cards, and it has been proven time and time again that you are more likely to spend money on a credit card than you are if you had it in cash or even if you had a debit card. And I'd say the most popular way to pay right now is touch to pay, and studies have shown that even having touch to pay, you are more likely to spend more money than if you actually had to physically insert or swipe your card. So these banks know how to psychologically abuse us, and I want you to be aware of that. I still think you should always make a purchase with a credit card just because it normally comes with purchase protections and things like that. You may as well earn points if you're spending money anyway, but you need to be cognizant of that, and you should not be spending money you wouldn't spend otherwise on a sign-up bonus. Again, I always say if you have large one-time purchases like Christmas is just around the corner here, maybe get a new sign-up bonus right around the same time you're ready to make a bunch of Christmas spending or tax spending or car payments or car insurance payments or things like that. Be strategic with it, but do not overspend just for the sake of getting some extra Monopoly money. And then finally, you'll probably make some mistakes along the way. You'll make a redemption that quote unquote is bad by the eyes of some. You'll apply for the wrong credit card that you thought worked for you that really doesn't work for you. And I just want to say that's totally okay. I've made my mistakes along the way, but I've also made some awesome travel redemptions that I wouldn't change for the world. You'll make some bad redemptions, and I wouldn't be surprised if those redemptions turn out to be the most fun. You might not get the best quote-unquote value in a certain redemption, but if it brings you joy and it brings you happiness at the end of the day, that is truly the only thing that matters. So if you liked this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I really wanted to focus on making a video for some of the beginners in the credit card game because I know some of the videos I make, I kind of assume you know some things already, so I feel like this is a great stepping stone for the noobs in the chat. But if you do have any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. There's also a lot of great Discord servers out there with different communities of credit card people in them that love to share their tips and tricks. Feel free to, again, research some YouTubers, join their Discords, ask them questions. And again, this is a community that I think is pretty awesome and is willing to share information and help people out. At the end of the day, we're all trying to travel for a little cheaper and maybe travel a little bit nicer than we normally would, and maybe take a few swings back at the bank and steal some value from them that they normally extract from us. Just want to thank everyone for helping me hit 300 subscribers. It is an awesome achievement here. I've been making videos for a little over 5 months now, and I've seen some awesome love in my journey. So if you would like to be a part of that journey, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, have a great rest of your day.